Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to Spring Boot Laboratory course. Today I have got an extremely important session for you on REST API in Spring Boot. In this session, we will start with some key concepts of REST API followed by building Spring Boot application with the REST API for a particular scenario. REST, representational state transfer, is a web architecture constraint in which web services can be designed to serve the resources based on the request from the client. A web service is a unit of managed code that can be invoked using HTTP requests. And the REST API will always work with HTTP protocol only. In the REST API, web server and web client can be communicated using HTTP requests and HTTP response messages. The format supported in these messages are HTML, XML, JSON, and plain text, etc. And the REST uses different HTTP methods to perform their job and uses HTTP response codes to inform the clients about the success and failure of a particular request here. And here the get request, post request, put request and delete request are most frequently used request methods in the REST API. And the get used for reading the data from the server, post used for inserting the data into the server, and put request is used for updating the data into the server, and delete request is used for deleting the data from the server. And these HTTP methods can also be mapped with the database or Java persistent API CRUD operations also. And the post request is mapped with creating an entry into the database, and get request is used for reading the entries from the database, and put request is used to update the entries into the database, and delete request is used for deleting the entries from the database. Spring Boot RESTful application architecture. The Spring Boot with REST API application follows this simple architecture for the implementation in the Spring Boot. Here the controller layer implements receive the HTTP request and exposes the corresponding service method to the client. And the service layer implements actual business logic for each and every RESTful API service provided. And the model layer contains a plain old Java class which reflects the database table or Java persistent API object. So in this application, we are going to implement the REST services on the books data. Okay. So here the controller, we need to implement the controller classes, service layer classes, and model classes. And the controller class contains different kinds of methods which corresponding to each and every HTTP URL, and these methods will call the service layer object methods in which the model layer objects will be used as a resources which will be exposed to the client. So this is the main area of RESTful API application architecture in the Spring Boot, and this will be reflected on the books database here. The get request using the URL /books to read all the books from the database, and delete books with the book ID, so deletes a book based on the ID, and post with the books URL will post new book entry into the database, and put books with the book ID method to update the book for the existing book ID, and get books with the book ID will get a particular book information for the given book ID. So this is the URLs that we are going to create in our Spring Boot application, and will check the response messages for these HTTP requests. Now we are going to implement this application live. So for this we are going to open Eclipse IDE where the Spring Boot applications are going to be designed here. For the time being, I just close this presentation. I'm going to Spring Boot Eclipse IDE here. So here, first of all, we are going to create a new Spring Boot application. For this, I'm going to File, New, and Others. It will open a window. There you just type Spring Starter Project. Click Next. It is asking for some entries here, so these are the mandatory entries to give the information about the application. The name of the application I'm giving here REST API book service, and type Maven project and packaging JR file, and Java version we follow 8th version, and the language Java. Here group ID we are using com.restapi.books, and artifact REST book services, and version 0.0.1, description REST API on books, and package we follow com.restapi.books is a main package for this Spring Boot. Okay, so keep all these things as it is and click on next. So this is for project dependencies we need to include in this application. Spring Web Spring Boot Dev Tools. This, click next and then click finish. We'll wait for some time to download this application into our Eclipse environment. So here REST API book service src main.java. So here the main package is created com.restapi.books. Here the application will be created REST API book service application. If you click on this, so the main method with the instruction of running and initiating the Spring Boot application here. So we need not change this application. Now, so we have to create 3 different layers as per the architecture that I have shown earlier in the presentation. The first one is, on the service layer, controller layer, and the service layer, second layer, and the third layer is model layer here. Okay, so I'm going to create one by one layer here in this Java source file. So for this, I just select the project name and click new, and then package. Package name com.restapi.books.model. For creating the classes related to model layer, I included into this package. Yeah. And this package, click new class. I'm going to create a model class book which exposes this information to the web clients. Click finish. Yeah. As book is a Java Bean class, assume. So here this book class contains the properties like ISBN and string author, string title of the book. And we need to include getters and setters for these properties into this class, and as well as 2 different constructors to be included into this bean class. So for this, I just right click this empty area and then go to source, generate getters and setters. Okay. Click select all fields and then generate getters and setters. Here for each and every property, getters and setter methods are included. Along with these getters and setters, we need to include the constructors also. So for this, again click on empty area, click source, generate constructor using fields. 3 fields we have to select and then generate. One constructor with the 3 arguments will be included here, and again another default constructor also be included. For this, again click on source, generate constructor from superclass, select and then generate. Yeah, this is a empty constructor, default constructor. So this is book, which is a model object. A simple model object I am going to create here, book.java. So model object has been created successfully, and model layer implementation is done successfully. And then next one, we have to create a service layer. Again, for the service layer related class to include, we have to create a new package. Again click on the project name, new, and again package com.restapi main package is come dot REST API dot books dot service, which is a service layer classes to be included. So that click on finish. And again, we need to include two different classes into this service layer. One is interface where we need to publish we need to include the methods which are related to the service layer, and then implementation class for those methods which are there in the interface. One by one, I am going to show you how to create new interface. The interface name I am giving here book service. Finish. Here we need to include the methods declaration in the book service. Public find all books, which is used for showing all book entries, so that it returns more than one book object. There's a reason to hold that number of objects. We need to have a collection object that is hash set with book object, holding book object, and public void add book for adding a new book. Argument book object, and public void delete book. Delete all books. No argument. So here it will delete and remove all the book entries. And again, we need to include another one also, that is book find by ISBN. Find by ISBN method. Argument we need to take ISBN number. So these are the four different methods related to the service layer for the book service. Here some of the errors shown here. We need to import the relevant packages, hash set, import java.util, and book we need to import model package here. Okay, so everything is all right. So click save here. Book service is also completed. And the next, this is, since this is an interface, we need to include a class which implements this interface to give exact implementation for all these methods. So for this, again the same package, I have to include a new class with book service IMPL. Here we need to include the interface from where this class has to be implemented. So for this, this is the interface section. We need to include, or we need to add a book service interface here. Add. Click book service. Select book service and add. Okay. And then click on OK. Since we need to implement only one interface, so that add this interface and click on OK. If we want to, and then click finish. As we instruct to implement book service, so then all the book service methods have been copied here in the implementation class with the empty implementation. Here we need to include the code, relevant code for each and every method here. Yeah. So coming to the first method, hash set book find all books. So for this, I just use the code like, suppose if for this we need to have book service, book model object. For this reason, I create hash set with book object book list. Equal to new hash set of book object. We create a collection object to hold a list of books. And now I am going to implement this find all books method. Okay. Book list, if book list is empty, if book list is not empty, then what we have to do, simply return book list object. Very simple. Otherwise, if it is not empty, return null. That's all. A very simple implementation here for find all books. And add book is also a very simple statement to add a new book entry into the hash set. We have book list hash set book list dot add of book. That's all. And the next one is delete all books. We have the method in the collection interface to delete all the entries from the hash set. So we have book list object dot clear. It will clear all book objects from the hash set book list. And find by ISBN. So for the given ISBN, so we have to verify the corresponding object from the hash set, and we have to return that particular object only, which is a book object. So for this, I just use a single statement to extract a specific book for the given ISBN here. Book equal to, so we have a book list hash set object dot. First we need to convert this book list hash set object into the string. Then we have to apply filter method. This single expression, we can call it as a lambda expression, which can extract the required information from the collection object here. So that I applied filter. In this filter, we need to give a lambda expression which is in the format of a list of arguments and one line of statement to extract the specific content here. So here the argument should be specified in the parenthesis, and assume this is the book object B, and then arrow mark, and here this B object we have to extract B dot get ISBN. It should be verified with the given ISBN. This is the instruction to verify for the given ISBN corresponding book object, which is a B. We will get B object with the given ISBN object. Then this B object we need to find any for the book object to be written which is there in the collection object. Later, if this object is not found, if given ISBN, if the object is not found, then we can apply or else method, or else we simply return null. This is a simple single line of lambda expression to extract a book object for the given ISBN from the collection object. So this is the feature available in Java 8 only. Next, we just return book object. So this is book service implementation, service layer classes. So far in the service layer we created book service interface and book service IMPL class. So it's over. Now again, first layer, which is a controller layer, we need to implement. For this, again I create a new package to include all controller related classes. Again, the package name is here com.rest API dot books dot controller. Finish. Controller package has been created. Now we need to include a controller class here in this package. New class books controller, where in this class we need to include different methods which exposes URLs from the HTTP request and then calls the service layer object methods to give to act like a interface between HTTP outside HTTP request methods and the service layer methods. We need to indicate this book controller as a REST controller to the Spring architecture. So for indicating this class as a REST controller to the Spring, so we need to annotate this book controller as a REST controller. So that use REST controller annotate. Next, so we need to use the object service layer implementation object. So our service layer implementation object is there in the service package, so that book service IMPL book service, and this should be auto-write, okay, to automatically inject this book service object into controller service. So if you give auto-write annotation, then the Spring runtime environment automatically creates this book service object, takes from the container and use this book service constructor and as well as the setters and getters methods of this book service into our books controller automatically. So that's the reason we give annotation as auto-write book service IMPL, and this book service IMPL we need to include import and the REST controller we need to import also, and auto-write we need to import annotation. Next, again, so we have to expose the methods. Public void add book of book object. So inside this add book object, we need to call book service add book with the book object supplying as an argument. And the next method, public hash set with the book object get all books, no arguments here, get all books. Return, we use book service object method name get, what is that, find all books, and another method, public void delete all books, no arguments, and for this we need to include book service object dot delete all books. Okay. Book object we need to import, and hash set we need to import public it returns book get book by ISBN, argument is ISBN. What to be called, from book service find by ISBN with ISBN as an argument. Use return. Okay. So these are the different HTTP related controller methods which calls automatically whenever a HTTP request will be made, and in each and every method the relevant service method object will be called accordingly. But for the Spring, so we need to annotate each and every method for the corresponding URL. So that we have to give annotation instruction for each and every method here. Okay. So as I already told you, HTTP methods are get method, post method, put method, delete method, like this. Okay. So annotation will be given accordingly. Add book will be used and called for the post request. That's the reason we use post mapping. Inside this, we need to use URL. A root URL I am passing here, and the next one is hashed book get all books, and for this again get request is mapped, get mapping of find all. And then next delete all books. For this delete mapping of delete, and the next one is at the right get mapping of URL for get find by ISBN ISBN. So we need to include as a second argument. So for this we need to use ID. After find by ISBN URL, whatever the value which is given, that value will be saved into ID request. Yeah. So these are all different mapping, different HTTP request mappings to these methods. Whenever a specific URL is received, so then the corresponding mapping method will be called automatically, will be taken care by the Spring container, and we need to include import all these mappings, import post mapping and get mapping, delete mapping also. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4 methods have been exposed to the web client. Save this controller. And the next we need to add another annotation here for this add book, and this add book argument book object will be supplied from the web client as a request body, so that this book information will be there in the request body and extract the book information from the request body. That's the reason we need to annotate this book object as a request body. Save this controller. Yeah. So these are all the different controller methods we need to include. So these are the different layer related classes we implemented in the controller, model and service. Save this entire project. We need to run this application now. For running this application, select the project, click run as Spring Boot app. Just go to book service IMPL. We have to annotate this service implementation class as service annotation file, and again run this application. To verify this application from Postman tool, I am opening Postman tool here. So we need to download this Postman from the internet and install this Postman tool in your application, in your system, to verify this kind of RESTful API application from the Spring Boot. So this is the tool I have opened here from this Postman, and here I open our application by calling http://localhost : our port number 8080 main root URL. So generally for adding new book we are assigning the method in the books controller root URL for adding book by passing book object here as a request body, and that too it is a post method. So we change this get as a post method, and this is the URL localhost : 8080, and before calling the send method, in the body request body we need to pass a JSON object with the entries. The first entry, the entries keys should be the properties of our model object. So ISBN, Aadhaar, title. So that go to postman. First one is ISBN. We have JSON and the entry ISBN entry, suppose 1234, and then next one is Aadhaar. Next one is Aadhaar Balaguru Swami, and then title C programming. With three properties, I create a JSON in the body and then click on send method, the sending request here. So the application will not generate any response message, so that we didn't get any response here, but successfully created JSON, send the JSON object to our application here. And then next, suppose 1234 as ISBN number, so that now here get request find all URL, and then with the get request with send, then I got ISBN with book details, ISBN, Aadhaar, title as a JSON again. Is a response message came from this URL, by which it calls the corresponding method of get all books, in which in turn it will call find all books from the service layer object, and again find by ISBN ID, ISBN find by ISBN /1234, and again this is also get method. The argument for find by ISBN is a path variable we need to annotate. Include this path variable. Okay. Save this one and go to postman again and find by ISBN 1234, clicks. So then we got book information with the ISBN 1234. So this is the procedure of verifying our RESTful API web service application in the Spring Boot. Thank you.